Okay, so picking up with where we left off in terms of the anatomy of the parabola, I erased the definition that I had up here before so that we can write down what's called the standard form of a parabola. Okay, the standard form. We've had quite a few of these. Now, it's kind of a play on words a little bit, or we're getting really specific. We had what was called the standard form of a quadratic in chapter 2. If you remember, the standard form of a quadratic was f of x equals a times the quantity x minus h plus k, if you remember that. Okay, now what we write for the standard form of a parabola is going to be different. Now you're thinking, are quadratics all parabolas? Yes. Okay, I get what you're saying, and I understand there might be confusion. But that, what I am erasing right now, that is the standard form of a quadratic. What I'm about to write is the standard form of a parabola. And the standard form of a parabola takes on two forms, actually, depending on how it's oriented. So here we have a parabola that's oriented what I would say vertically. It can open up or it can open down. Towards the bottom of your notes, you have parabolas that can open side to side. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, but the standard form of a parabola that opens up and down, x is going to be squared for that. Okay, so we still have that x minus h quantity like we did for quadratics. The difference is, because we spent so much time in this previous video talking about p, that value, I know, stop laughing. Okay, because we spent so much time talking about this, it has to play into what we write over here. So take a look at this. This is the standard form of a parabola written in this format, okay, where h and k is still the coordinates of the vertex, but now we are including this value of p that tells us some of the physical characteristics of what this parabola is going to look like. This is what we're going to write for our standard forms going forward. Notice, the squared variable is still x. I have a y, it's just not isolated in this format, okay? It's y minus k in a quantity as well. 4p is the coefficient of this value over here, okay? Now, like I said, there's two different formats for the standard form of a parabola. There's the vertically oriented parabola, and there's the horizontally oriented parabola. So when we talk about a parabola that opens side to side, right, you're thinking, well, it doesn't pass the vertical line test, so why are we wasting our breath? I get it, but we still have to discuss this as a possibility in mathematics, right? So in this case, if we have a parabola that's opening side to side, and the focus is, again, on the inside of the parabola, okay, we're going to have to go back for a second and talk about something else now that I'm thinking about this. But in this case, the directrix is a vertical line. So the directrix here, okay, is this line, and the axis is that, right? We still have the focus on the inside, we still have the vertex between the directrix and the focus, and we still have this value of p in here, okay? The standard form for a parabola that's oriented horizontally, the only change that we have to make is that we have to square our y variable instead of our x variable. So you're going to see there's similarities here, right? In this case, we have y minus k is still in that quantity, okay? The k still gets grouped with the y, but this quantity is squared as opposed to the x quantity being squared. But in either of these two cases, let's see if I can get them both on the screen, it's the squared binomial that's all by itself. Okay, and as we do more examples, I'll make sure I emphasize this. So one thing that I forgot to mention before is, how do we know if it opens up or down? And that, again, as we've said, is related to what this value of p is. For a vertically oriented parabola, if p is greater than 0, meaning p is positive, the parabola will open up, but you can have a p value that is less than 0, and that's going to open the parabola down. Okay, again, we'll focus on this as we do more and more examples, and you'll see what we're talking about. Over here, for a parabola that's oriented horizontally, okay, if p is greater than 0, then our parabola opens to the right where the positive numbers are on the number line. Okay, I think that should be pretty intuitive, but if p is a negative number, we're going to open that parabola towards where the negative numbers are on the x-axis. Okay, so here are our standard forms for parabolas. Notice I'm not saying the standard form of a quadratic. I'm saying the standard form of a parabola. It's different. You'll have to know this, okay, going forward. And then we've got everything listed in terms of what matters for what. The points are x and y. The p-value is the distance from the vertex to the focus. Okay, we've got two different formats for these parabolas. Now it's time to put this stuff to use.